Hello everybody! I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and the Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail Media Tour just wrapped up a little bit ago. And while I wasn't a part of it, I have been ravenously consuming content surrounding it over the last couple of days like a vacuum cleaner just sucking up dust. Also that one paperclip you forgot about. But I digress. The thing that really stuck out the most for me was the interview that Yoshi P did with Preach Gaming, link in the description down below. Within this interview, Yoshi P talked about this fear of failure, especially when it concerned fight design in Final Fantasy XIV. And it makes a lot of sense, right? You don't want to put out something that is not received well by the player base. Especially, dude, in a genre like an MMORPG. This genre is notorious for being wildly expensive and hard to, one, make, but also maintain. Goodwill is something that is really hard to come by, but is easily lost. Especially in a genre that can be as volatile as MMORPG if your name isn't World of Warcraft. And for so many years, we saw so many MMORPGs come out and be immediately labeled as a WoW clone or a WoW killer because of their striking resemblance to World of Warcraft, who was by far and away the biggest dog on the block. So instead of taking risks and trying to be their own thing and garner their own identity, they tried to copy what World of Warcraft did because it was a proven successful formula. And again, why do they do this? Because the genre is so pricey just to make a game for, let alone support post-launch. Why take a risk on something that is not guaranteed to succeed, rather than just trying to iterate on an idea that people are already receptive to? Now, why am I yapping about this? It's because this philosophy carries over into Final Fantasy XIV. It is one of the biggest MMORPGs we have ever seen. It has gone on for years. A game that started with its disastrous launch of 1.0 has blossomed into a game that is a phenomenon all of its own, that has garnered so much goodwill over the years due to brilliant storytelling and gameplay iteration, but also clear and transparent communication by the developers to the player base. And when you are a game like Final Fantasy XIV that has done as well as it has, there can be this, not even implied, this subconscious fear that it could go all pear-shaped at a moment's notice. It can go down the gutter if you aren't careful, and if you don't give the players what they want. Yoshi P specifically mentioned their boss design philosophy going into Dawntrail, wanting to take risks and being okay with this fear of failure, that maybe not everything lands with the player base, but if you stick with any one thing for too long, it can, one, be really stale to make, but also over time, just get bland and not boring, but lose its luster. For instance, my favorite flavor of ice cream is vanilla. It's delicious, it's delectable, I love it. I can slurp it up all day long. That's a lie, my tummy would hurt. However, not the only flavor that I like to eat. I like that variety. I like going for a bit of chocolate, maybe a bit of mint chocolate chip, maybe some coffee flavor, some chunky monkey. Because if I only have vanilla, and I have it for too long, well then it would lose its luster that I originally had for it. It would get bland and stale and boring because of overconsumption. The same goes and applies for food. I'm in the middle of, I guess, what people call a weight loss journey. I'm just trying to lose weight, and I'm down about 120 pounds right now. And one of the biggest things that has helped me has been to just eat more variety of food. Not just the same crap that I used to eat that was so jam-packed with fat and calories that it blew me up in size. I started eating meat and way more vegetables, and I started to enjoy food way more, but it was also just healthier and better for me on the whole. That logic can also apply to, well, design and philosophy when it comes to an MMORPG. These are games that demand a lot of time investment, not only by the developers, but also the player base. The best games tend to be made with a lot of passion by both the players and also the developers. You don't want design to get stagnant to where they feel as if they can only design things a certain way, because eventually you'll just play through that enough and you'll experience that enough that it gets boring and loses the appeal that it used to have. You have to have these risks. You have to be willing to put one foot in front of the other and out the door in order to try and find something new that can work. Maybe it doesn't always work, and you can address it when that happens, but you have to be willing to take that risk. Because not only could that new thing you do really land and be fun and received well and become a new core component to design going forward, it can also make you appreciate what you already have and appreciate that vanilla ice cream even more. You have something to compare it to. Your taste buds aren't only being saturated with one thing. Let's talk raid design and stop speaking generalities. Most people that play this game, they aren't doing ultimates and they aren't doing savage. Most people that play this game, the highest end rating they will do is normal mode and alliance raids. Maybe the occasional extreme trial. But if you've played this game for any length of time, you will know the overall design philosophy behind a Final Fantasy XIV fight. A lot of really telegraphed AoEs, or just locations that you have to get out of or go to in order to survive. Maybe the occasional tank buster or whatnot. There's a bit more to it than that, but you know that's roughly the identity of a Final Fantasy XIV fight. It's a dance. And I really enjoy the fight design of Final Fantasy XIV. But again, if you've been doing it for years and years and years, it will eventually get a little bit old if they never try anything new and take a risk. Which is one of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to Dawntrail, because they're putting this idea, this identity of taking risks and removing the fear of failure from the equation and putting risk-taking front and centered. Because no longer am I just going to look at the new raids announced for Dawntrail like the Arcadian or like Echoes of Vana'diel and just think, okay, it's gonna be more of the same, maybe with some cool visuals and whatnot. Now I don't know what the hell to expect. I don't know what kind of fights we're going to get, what kind of unique mechanics they could have, what risks they could take. This stuff is important. It's really, really, really important. Because you never really want that feeling where it goes, oh, okay, I kind of know what to expect here. No, that's not what you want to feel when you go into a new expansion. It should be starry-eyed and wanderlust, just enveloping you, wanting to try everything, consume everything. That is when an MMORPG expansion is at its hypest, when you don't know what to expect, when you're going into any new piece of content wondering, what in the hell am I in for? It's wanderlust, it's excitement, and that kind of stuff is important. And also, this is philosophy. This stuff can apply to more than just what mechanics does the raid boss do. Because Endwalker took a lot of risks in itself. It introduced things like variant dungeons. A really cool and novel idea. Let's have a non-linear dungeon where you can tackle it in multiple different ways to get different endings and sometimes different boss fights. What a cool idea. What was its issue? The reward structure was severely lacking. Okay, that's a workable issue. A lesser game would have seen that risk taken, seen that reception wasn't all that perfectly positive, and just cast it aside. A better studio, like this studio, would look at it and say, okay, let's try it again. What were the issues? What were the faults that had taken place here? How can we improve them? We don't know what the variant dungeons will look like in Dawntrail, but because they have shown a propensity now to take risks, but also to iterate based on player feedback, I'm far more optimistic and excited to see what variant dungeons may look like in Dawntrail. Final Fantasy XIV was built on the back of taking a massive risk with the state of the game after 1.0. It blossomed into a realm reborn and everything that has come since, but it all started with a risk. Going outside the comfort zone, going outside of the bounds of tradition and saying, hey, can we make this work? Maybe we don't nail everything right the first time, which they definitely didn't, but we can go from there, we can learn from there, we can course correct, we can pivot, we can divot, we can do whatever we need, we can zig or zag, and that's important, because maybe not everything lands perfectly the first time, but it's exciting to have something new. It reinvigorates the player base and saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm not expecting this is new, what is this? oh, this is cool. Or if they go, oh, wait, I wasn't expecting this. This actually kind of sucks. We can just go from there. Nothing says it has to stay the exact same going into the future. And you always have that risk where it's like, hey, if we spend the development time making a thing like this, instead of making something more, well, known and researched and battle-tested, yeah, maybe it ends up making the game a little bit worse than it could be. It can also make the game a little bit better than it could be, though. And those risks, more often than not, are important to take, in my opinion. Especially for a game that requires and asks for as much time from the player like Final Fantasy XIV, which at the end of the day is still an MMORPG. Not only does the world have to develop over time, but the game itself has to. It has to evolve and has to adapt and be willing to try something new. Like the Fall Guys event. It's dumb fun. Are there complaints? Are there critiques that can be leveled at it? Absolutely! Was it a risk? Yeah. Do I think it paid off? Yeah. Because it's wacky and it's something different and it's fun. And that's important. That is so important to the state and longevity of an MMORPG. Especially an MMORPG that is at a fork in the road like Final Fantasy XIV. Where one big chapter of Realm Reborn to Endwalker is now closed. Where do they want to take this game into the future? And how can they convince the player base to stick around for the ride? You may love vanilla ice cream, but having those other flavors, even if you don't like them, can make vanilla taste even better. And who knows, maybe you end up loving chocolate. Maybe you end up loving coffee. Who knows? And then all of a sudden, you have multiple flavors to partake in. And then you can go from there. Instead of just buying vanilla, you can buy a combination of the three and then maybe try something new and just see how it goes. That applies to MMORPG design as well. And that to me, the fact they're willing to take these risks, we have to see how they manifest in the game, don't get me wrong, but the fact they are openly saying this, and from this studio, gives me a lot of faith and hope and optimism for the future of the game. And with that, I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and help support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games if you can. Leave a comment down below with what element of the game you think they need to take the most risks for. What has gotten a little bit stale for you, and what could be done to freshen up the experience. I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, and to hear your perspectives. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again! Like and subscribe!